live.
Cool.
Now it says
Look
it's
at
being
that.
live
That's
streamed.
so cool. That's really awesome.
So now it says setting up the meeting. Hi, everyone. If you guys are just joining us, we're trying to get the URL because Ellie, oh, there we go. Ellie doesn't know how to schedule.
This actually is not so easy because like if you do it in advance, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you do it with Zoom.
There is a way, and I did it once. I tried to do it once with Jonathan McDowell, and somehow he like entered the wrong Zoom. I don't know what happened, but it's given me some fears since then. So let's just make sure that we're good here. Hello, everyone. If you're joining us, sorry, we are getting some things situated. Okay. Oh, I see it. So it looks like it's live.
Cool. All right.
Good news. Good news.
I guess just send me the link and I'll post it on my Discord and on
Did it once. Okay, let me send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Do it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So many logistics.
The beginning of the live stream is always so much fun.
It really is. And luckily,
actually the angry astronaut, Jordan's really got it. Like he's got it working. He does really well. But I think he works with somebody in like England or something.
Oh, does he?
I'll copy this.
Okay.
Copy. There we go.
Okay, so
posting it on
Twitter. All right. We're almost there. What I was about to say, what day is it? What day is it?
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Okay.
Wow, I really do know it all. Whoa.
You really
it's amazing.
All right, so let's see. Okay, I think that I got this going. Okay.
As long as we have one person watching, we're in good shape.
Let's see. Is there one person watching? Is there anyone watching? I don't really see. So I need to have that window up because I need to be able to get the questions. All right.
Cool.
Now it says it's being live streamed. So cool. BMAT says can hear you fine. So
that's cool. Okay.
That's good.
Also, we're really, really delayed. So
okay.
I was like hearing my voice coming in late. I was like, oh gosh.
So here I am joined by Dr. Know-It-All. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your real name is John. Tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there and how you got your name.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I told you I wasn't going to tell you until we were live. So it's actually a joke between my sister and my brother and me growing up, is that they always said that I was such a know-it-all because like if whenever they'd ask me questions, they'd just be like, this was like, because I'm like super old. So I grew up before the internet. And so they would always go like, hey, what's the answer to this? And I'd be like, oh, that's the answer. So they're like, you're such a know-it-all. So anyway, when I started the channel 2+ years ago, I was just like, oh, I'm just going to roll with that. And since I have a PhD, I'll go with Dr. Know-It-All instead. And it was supposed to be tongue in cheek, but from time to time, I think you even got it today. You said that you like posted about it and someone was like, oh, anyway, it's supposed to be a joke, people. There's a question mark when you watch like the intro of like my videos. It always has a question mark because it's supposed to be the original channel was, somebody like a viewer would post a question. My wife would get it, write it down on a piece of paper. I would open it up and have to live answer like just instantly. So it really was like, do I know it or not? So,
wow.
If you go back, if you search back 402 or 3 videos ago and you look back at the early ones, that's what it was. So,
oh man, I'm glad no one made me do that because I would, as you can tell from my preparation for this live stream that's supposed to be, off the cuff, yeah. And
so I do actually, I just relevant to the discussion today, I actually have an undergraduate degree in physics and I have a PhD, but it's in English literature. So if anybody wants to ask questions about Samuel Beckett, I'm happy to answer that too. But I know, right? Nobody cares about that at all. And then I also have a master's degree in artificial intelligence. So
that is cool.
Physics and the AI. Yeah. So
I don't think I knew that one.
Yeah. So
wow. And so, obviously your channel is very, Musk Industries heavy. Is that kind of like your focus?
Yeah. Again, I've always been really interested in that stuff. When the channel started, it was just whatever. But as people responded, you know how this goes. You sort of adjust your content based on what the viewership wants. And everyone was like, love SpaceX, love Elon Musk, love Tesla. And I, of course, feel the same way. So I was like, well, heck, let's just roll with that. But sometimes I'll just do a random video that gets like no views. So I've done ones before. I did one of jumping out of an airplane and how turbulent airflow actually causes you not to die. So yeah, you can go back
That's
and look at that one too.
cool. Yeah, it is always hit or miss, and that's why
Exactly.
you just got to keep trying. Sometimes the things you think people will love, they don't care
Right.
about.
Right.
And that's okay. But we do have some people watching from the UK, Australia, Ireland's in the house.
Holy
So
crap, it's pretty late there, guys. I mean, not in Australia, it's tomorrow there, but
yeah.
wow.
But we have a lot to talk about. I mean, it
Cool.
has been a very crazy, chaotic, turbulent time, obviously. And you and I were discussing earlier in the week how, Ukraine now has access to Starlink,
Right.
thanks to Elon Musk, and how, pivotal that is right now. So kind of maybe we can start there.
Yeah. I guess the choices start with the negative or the positive, because the negative, of course, is just the whole situation that's caused it. So I think everybody probably knows plenty about that. So on the positive end of things, I think, and I don't know, maybe everybody already knows this who's watching you, because you're all like a bunch of super smart people and you're all very well informed. But a lot of people don't understand why Starlink actually works. Whereas I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's really cool, he did that, but why does it matter? So like, if you think about cell phone towers or land-based internet or something, all you have to do is basically cut not just one point, but a few points, and you can more or less cut off big chunks of the country by doing that. Right. And Starlink, on the other hand, because it's satellites and you have dishes, it's really hard. You can try to do radio interference and stuff to kind of mitigate it and make it not work as well, but it's almost impossible to kill Starlink. So effectively the information flow, and that's a huge thing, right? Because if you can cut off, so if you're Russia and you want to have all of the information and you don't want anybody else to have the information and be able to get it out, you only want your story out there. It's great if you can cut off everybody else's information access. And then you're the only one who gets to tell the story, and you can say like, oh yeah, there's some rebels, but we took care of it and we're the good guys or something, right? Ukraine is definitely telling a very different story about that right now.
Right.
Yeah. I love your cat, by the way. Your cat.
Oh, he's in and out, and he's extremely hairy and shedding, and I'm honestly not a fan of it, but he's gonna bother me if I don't let him be a part of this. So exactly. Yeah, and we did see that tweet from the Ukrainian vice prime minister that the Starlink terminals were in fact delivered. I had some people comment on my video, okay, well, that's great, but they need terminals, so they're there. Right. Which is great, because, as I mentioned, we've seen Starlink used in a plethora of natural disasters, but this is really the first use case for this type of disaster, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think that originally Starlink was mostly pitched as a way to even out the digital divide, right? There's people in large cities and wealthy countries that have access to very high-speed internet, and then you have people even in places like the United States in rural areas. I'm sure, like, because you live in Utah, so like there's like backwoods areas of Utah where you probably can't even get decent cell phone coverage, much less anything else. So so it's that sort of use case, but this is another completely justifiable use, is to keep information free and flowing in situations that are natural or man-made disasters, either one. So I think it's really cool that he's doing that.
And it's not just Starlink, Tesla too. And this is the first time that we've seen
your background.
My background. This is the first time that we've seen free, supercharging, not just limited to Tesla, but also for any EV. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. What are you going to say? Elon Musk is an amazing person. I know there's a lot of people. It's really sad because he catches so much hell.
He does.
We actually, when we were talking earlier, both of us have experienced this, right? You get the internet trolls who get on your case, and both of us have like this much fame, whereas he has like this much fame. And so I can't even imagine how horrible it must be to have the number of people coming after you that he does.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to take a tough skin to be able to do that.
It's crazy. He has like 75 million something followers on Twitter. No wonder he's not responding to my tweets.
I tweet him every day. Why does he not respond?
I did see too that kid, Jack Sweeney kid, he's like a teenager who made that Elon Musk's jet Twitter account, has now made a similar Twitter account, or maybe it's on the same, no, it's probably a different one. But it's tracking like the Russian oligarchs and officials and their jets. So that's kind of like, it's just like, wow, we are in 2022 where this is happening. There's a teenager that's tracking billionaires and tracking, high level officials, and then, the whole thing with Starlink, giving access in Ukraine. I just think it's a really crazy time seeing things that we've never seen before,
I actually didn't know that about tracking the oligarchs, but that's got to not make those guys real happy, because most of them seem very, very private. They don't really want people messing around in their business. So, but as Steve Wozniak, and oh gosh, who was he talking to? But the guy from Apple, the founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, he said information wants to be free.
Yeah.
Back in a conference in the 70s, and it does, right? It's difficult to keep information tamped down, especially in 2022 when we have all these lovely things like YouTube where we can talk about things.
Right.
And we have cats. Man, this video is going to be super popular. We got space, Elon Musk, and cats. Everything's going to go.
I'm laughing because Mondo 851 says, Ellie, I thought you were actually outside in front of a recharge parking lot for Teslas. The cat's tail should have been a clue. I guess the picture looks realistic. Yeah, I'm just posted out here with a little stool. No, but I'm glad it looks real.
Gosh, if I'd gotten like a little mountain picture behind me, we could have faked like we were actually in the same place. That would have been awesome.
Yes. And remind people, I'm in Utah. You're in Georgia, yeah?
In Georgia, yeah. I teach at the University of Georgia, so I'm in Athens.
Ah, okay.
But if I ever just say Athens, everyone's always like, wow, you're in Greece? I'm like, no. There's another Athens.
It's funny. Okay. Yes. So let's move on to talking about another timely, thing that's on a lot of people's minds, and that's kind of the fate of the ISS. I mean, we know that the ISS is already planned. I'm sorry, there's so much cat hair. Oh
no, it's okay. I've got 2 huskies upstairs. I locked them out so they wouldn't get me.
He's so needy. Can you see his face? Now you can see his face. This is him.
What's his name?
His name is Pinocchio. But we should call him, oh Lord, he coming. He's a major chonk, and he's just, I need to brush him. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we know, the ISS is planned to deorbit sometime in 2031. And we were just talking about, what's going to happen. I mean, there was that tweet about, the threat of it deorbiting too soon and falling somewhere it shouldn't. And then the idea that SpaceX could come in and save the day, and that's not so feasible at the moment.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. Elon said that. Sorry, I got distracted by the cat. I started thinking about the fact that you can't have cats and most dogs in space.
Oh,
because they shed and the fur just floats around.
Yeah.
So I think you could reasonably have a dog like a poodle that like had to be cut because their hair doesn't shed so much.
Maybe a hairless cat.
A hair. Oh man, those things are scary looking. I don't know. I know some people. What are those called? Sphinx cats?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I just was totally distracted thinking about that. But So the problem is that the ISS has a bunch of docking modules. And you didn't talk about this with Scott Manley because you actually filmed this before the whole Ukrainian thing.
Oh yeah, I filmed that on January 29th. So
yeah, okay. Oh, that's my birthday. Yay.
Hey, nice.
So maybe next year Scott will grant me an interview with him on my birthday. But anyway, so the ISS has a bunch of docking modules, but there is, I think it's only one that's specifically for boosting orbit, and it's kind of right down the axis. So when you fire thrusters, otherwise the whole thing would start spinning. They had that, was it the Zvezda module that docked a couple of months ago, and then it started firing and it caused the whole space station to like flip over and everything, right? So that's not right. So you want to put it in a very specific spot, but then you also have to have a spacecraft. So the ISS has some small boosters on it, but it doesn't have a lot, and it doesn't have a lot of propellant. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a ship that comes up from the Earth, which is the Progress vehicle is what's used right now, that docks in that specific docking port, and then it fires its thrusters straight down the axis, and so it moves the whole thing. Or you can flip it over and you can slow it down, do whatever you need to. So anyway, that's the only thing that can be used currently to boost or lower orbits or change orbits or anything like that, to a large extent. You, in an emergency situation, you can do it with the ISS itself. But anyway, that's those modules are the only ones that can do it. This is all off the top of my head. So if I make any mistakes in details, please forgive me, people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, reading this Daily Beast article, you know,
right.
I guess that they are gonna test. Did you call it Cygnus? Cygnus.
Cygnus.
Yeah. Cygnus, they're going to test that later this month to see if, you know, they could use that to replace the Progress spacecraft propulsion functions. And then that would you know, obviously change things. Russia could leave with fundamentally no technical or programmatic consequences for the US side. So
yeah, I don't think, okay. So there's a couple of things. Number one, so first of all, the reason why the Crew and Cargo Dragon can't work right now is because they don't have, if you look at the way the ship is created, there's the crew capsule with it just looks like an old Apollo crew capsule for the most part. But then there's the module underneath, the service module, that doesn't have any thrusters on it. So the only thing that can actually fire and create a lot of delta V from the Crew and Cargo Dragons is actually the Super Dracos on the sides, but those are kind of pointing outward. And I think the Angry Astronaut actually did a thing about that showed that they actually will scorch the service module as well. So that could be dangerous firing them as well, but they're not designed to do something like that. And then there's also a software issue, and that's, you have to like fire us in a very, very careful way using a lot of software that the Russians had built over decades to be able to do this in a very safe, controlled manner. So it's not a simple solution to fix. My understanding is that the ISS is up, I think they have about 2 years in terms of time. Like if it didn't get boosted anymore, it would still keep orbiting for like 2 more years before it would finally get low enough before it burn out. But the problem is, if it gets in the way of anything like a wrench or whatever, you know, somebody threw out of a Gemini spacecraft in the 1960s, if that's still floating around and the ISS is on a collision course with it, it needs to get out of the way. If it doesn't have something like the Progress module, it can't get out of the way. So even though it might not crash into the Earth's atmosphere for years, it could get completely destroyed and be unusable very, very quickly. So it's a much more urgent problem than 2 years from now.
But it's my understanding, you know, we still don't have, let me see my notes here, because we know that NASA said there's no changes planned to the agency's support for ongoing in-orbit and ground station operations. So this is like all, you know, assuming that there will be a breakup between us and Russia, correct? For space.
Right. Well, and also that there'd be a breakup. It seems like NASA, at the very least, has been taking a relatively calm approach to this all. But so what I could see is that like Biden and Putin just would go like, nope, we're cutting all ties, and NASA and Roscosmos, you guys have to separate. If that's the case, I don't know. You know, the Soviets, the Russians could take their marbles and just go home. They could just be like, fine, we're taking the Soyuz and we're going back, and you guys are stuck up here. And you know, SpaceX, fortunately, thank goodness, because 4 or 5 years ago, we wouldn't have had this option, but at least they could send a Crew Dragon up and get the rest of the people back and sort of rescue them. But also the Russians could say that they want the modules that they built. They could say, no, give those to us. We're going to separate them out.
Right.
So yeah, so there's pretty bad consequences that could happen. Now, it's unknown whether they could even do this, honestly, because they've been together and mated for so long that they could have easily fused together and be basically impossible to pull apart. But they could try that. They could.
Well, and they also rely on each other for different things. Like NASA operates the solar panels, and then obviously, you know, Russia operates those Progress vehicles. But so they have, you know, codependence right now. Oh, thank you to Friday Ray for the super chat. I guess Friday liked the Lab Padre interview. I interviewed Luis Valderas down. He does the Lab Padre operations there in Boca Chica. So
awesome.
yeah, so thank you for watching that. That was a really cool thing to shoot, and I'm sure you're familiar with Lab Padre's work, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I met Mary down there when I was down there a year ago, but I missed Lab Padre.
So I'll say it here. I've had a lot of people request me to interview Boca Chica gal. She does not like the camera. She likes being behind the camera.
Right.
She's not going to talk to me. So
that was pretty much exactly what I discovered. We talked and I was like, hey, you want to be on camera? And she's like, nope. So
and then also even just with kind of NASA spaceflight people in general, very nice, but like they're not really into like collaborating, you know,
right?
So, which is fine.
Good.
But yeah, sometimes people make good suggestions, and I'm like, either I've emailed them 5 times already, and I haven't heard back, or I've gotten a no, and so yeah. Let's see. I'm reading the comments here. Okay, what are these comments?
I was wondering if anybody on my Discord, if anybody's on my Discord channel and watching it, you see any interesting questions, because I've got that open in another panel over here. So
John Beek says Scott Manley said it's at least 2 years, which is what you basically said here too, and that's what I gathered from his breakdown in his recent video. So there is some time, but I mean, you make a great point, you know, something that if they need to make a quick maneuver, not having that option.
And also I think, I don't know, orbit around the Earth is like really complicated, but there's a whole area that's a really, really messy area that's below the orbit of the ISS. So it's got a lot of junk in it. Mm-hmm. And if the ISS starts sinking, it's going to get closer and closer to that area that has a bunch of junk, where it could actually have much higher chance of getting hit by something. So, you know, it's not really accurate to say that they have 2 years to worry about it. It's much shorter amount of time than that before it'll start to become urgent. And that's assuming, of course, that the Russians just, like I said, take their marbles and go home.
Right.
It seems like that would be a disastrous thing for them to do, because that's the only thing they have in space right now as well.
That's why I'm kind of asking for, I guess, my own education is like, this isn't necessarily a done deal yet. We're all just kind of speculating what could happen, what kind of options there are if that happens.
Yeah, the world has gotten a lot more unsettled in the last couple of weeks.
I know. You didn't want to talk about controversial stuff, but you know, there's some stuff going. I mean, I do want to get into the OneWeb stuff in a second here. Mars Embassy, thank you for the super chat. Love the coverage. What are your thoughts on Starbase upgrades and FAA stance? Will we see a launch?
Man.
Take your crystal ball.
Yeah. No, actually, Keith is amazing. He's so, hey, it's, oh my goodness.
Well, and someone, I want to add to that, because John Beek says Elon should be petitioning Biden for rapid approval by the FAA so he can get Starship flying.
Right.
You know, in a lot of ways, Starship is really like, we need it ASAP. So
yeah, and there's a little bit of lack of clarity right now, whether it's SpaceX's issue or just the FAA. So it seems it's been very quiet, and I know they've been working like demons down there. But you know, it is interesting that there haven't been more test launches since, I was just saying that, I think it was early May last year. Yeah. May 5th, something like that. So it's closing in on a year since there's been a test launch. And I know the whole environmental impact study and all of that down in Brownsville has had a really big effect. Right. But it seems like they could have at least done some Starship launches and things. I don't know. So it's they've also, you know, the oil platforms are moving out into the Gulf. There's a lot of moving parts right now.
And then
I hope
we see the construction. The construction is also increasing at Kennedy Space Center. So there's that alternative. And will that, you know, be first if this keeps getting delayed? I don't know.
Right. I had this feeling that when Elon Musk did the SpaceX night that he had, gosh, how long was that? Back in January now? It was a
It
while
was in
ago.
February.
It was in February. Okay.
It was in
Trying to
February.
remember how long ago. But when he did that, I felt a little bit like it was to gain support from the community around there, and also to kind of stick his nose, kind of thumb his nose at the FAA and everybody, and go like, look, if you guys don't give us this, we're going to just go someplace else. And so the local community would lose out in a really big way if they were not as active. So
Right.
I think there's reasonable complaints. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do environmental studies. I'm not that person just like, damn the torpedoes and just go for it. I think that there should be, but also they should be done in a reasonably quick fashion. And also, like back when SpaceX requested to use that space like a decade ago almost, that should have been done back then. It just seems pointless that it's going on now.
Damien Spector says, why start environmental impact after almost all the infrastructure was built?
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a pretty darn expensive thing. And something that really worries me is that SpaceX is depending on the Starship to be able to make the Starlink satellites economically viable. And that's a really big deal, because we don't need SpaceX going bankrupt.
No.
And I worry about that. There's they're launching a lot of Starlink, but nobody's paying them for that right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, they need more military launches, they need more civilian launches, they need more NASA launches. So it's a little frightening that they're not getting more income right now. And obviously they're a private company, who knows what their books look like, but it's a little scary that that's going on, especially right now when it seems like we need SpaceX like really bad.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to get some of the questions. I have other stuff that I want to talk about. Alderstrom says, what is the ISS replacement? So from what I know about that, they're going to be looking into private companies to create a replacement, or perhaps multiple. They're switching to private for that.
Yeah, the biggest one that I've heard of is actually the is it ULA and Blue Origin and one other company?
Is it Axiom?
The Orbital. Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, there's that. They were going to do something attached to the ISS and then break it off eventually. But I was talking about the Orbital Reef. Yeah. So of course, I'm sure immediately all the comments are going to get filled with hate comments about Jeff Bezos. But that it's really unfortunate that Blue Origin has been so pathetic in terms of their speed and getting like the BE-4 engines right now. The fact that they don't have those rocket engines ready to go is just devastating. It would be, the whole situation in the US would be so much better if the BE-4 engines were actually operational and ULA was using them right now. It would be, we would have multiple different like ways of getting to orbit. And like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, it was a way worse situation because we had 0 ways to get crew to orbit. And now it's better, but hopefully in another few years, it will be even better than that.
Right. Kent makes an interesting comment. With Elon putting a lot of effort into launching from Florida, it might put Brownsville into poking and hinting to getting the application done sooner with the FCC.
Right. FCC, FAA. Sorry, I'm trying to remember all these acronyms. I think, is it the FAA or is it
I'm thinking FAA.
Yeah, anyway, whatever.
What's going on here?
It's like EPA, FCC, FAA. Like,
yes, PEA, EPA. Yeah, there's a lot of acronyms.
But yeah, that's what I was saying. That I think that SpaceX presentation to a large extent was to try to get the local community to put pressure on the powers that be to try to get this stuff through, because I had never visited there before, but I'd been in parts of Texas.
Right.
And that sort of area of Texas is not economically advantaged historically. And this is a huge deal for them. Austin having the Gigafactory, that's great, but Austin's also, they're going to be fine no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Gigafactory, no Gigafactory, they're totally fine. But Brownsville is a whole different matter. This is a huge infusion of not just cash, but also people and, smart people, engineers. It's going to help the school districts. There's a whole bunch of things. There's like a bunch of knock-on effects that'll happen because of them being down there. So
well, and I know that, Elon has already poured a lot of money into the Cameron County school districts. And in fact, he went to that freaking Shadow Days, and I was there the weekend before, and he was there this past weekend, and I missed him. And I'm still butthurt about it. I really am, because I feel like that could have been my chance.
You could have shared. It wasn't churros. What was it? It was
Spiro Papa, that like long, like, did you see
meat on a stick? It's meat on a stick, right?
I think it's like potato, like spiralized potato.
Oh, okay.
At least that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, that shows my ignorance of that particular food.
There's been some interesting memes made of that. But anyway, he was there. I was sad about that. But yeah, he's definitely like, I thought it was interesting too, during that presentation, they put him on the spot and said, "Are you going to be at Shadow Days?" And he's like, "Sure." So he made an appearance.
That's the cool thing, is that he actually follows through.
Yeah.
He could have said,
he could have said, "I got too busy."
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And I'm sure he is too busy, but he just does it. It's amazing that he actually does things.
And
hold on. You keep on talking. I'll keep talking. My dog wants to get let into here.
Oh, you're good. I was just about
Since you've got your cat, I'm letting the dog in.
The cat is really like getting way too much hair on me. The cat needs to stop.
Come here. You're going to make an appearance.
It's live.
You're going to make an appearance. Her name is Kona.
This is, wait, let me, I have two windows. Oh my God. Wait, I want to compare.
Now we got dogs and cats. This video is going to be the most popular video ever.
All right, here's the thumbnail.
There we go.
What I was saying is that if you look at the interview that I did with Lab Padre, he was just talking about how, Brownsville is, has been typically a very, poor community, and they don't want to lose SpaceX and everything that SpaceX is bringing to that area. And then there's also a lot of like fear and uncertainty and doubt, FUD, on the ground. FUD. I love that acronym. I said that at my work, and they're like, "We've never heard FUD." And I'm like, I thought
clearly you don't follow Tesla enough, or else
I was going to say it. I said that in the morning meeting, like no one knew what I was talking about. I'm like, okay, none of you guys trade. But yeah, so there is some fear about, is this constant delay from the FAA and this uncertainty going to change things and potentially just move everything out, maybe not everything, but a lot of things out to the Cape, and what's going to happen then? I think there's a lot of fear on the ground, at least for the people that are like building their livelihoods around this too, are they going to have to, pack up and whatever? That's the sense that I got when I was there.
Right. And one hopes, again, I don't want them, if there's something extreme that they need to protect, and there are marshlands and things that are important there. But at the same time, it's like we really, really do need to have SpaceX. There needs to be like support.
Right.
That's a weird thing about Elon Musk's companies. I mean, you see that with the State of the Union address last night too, is that Tesla's not even mentioned. It's like they're not, whole thing about EVs, no mention of Tesla. It's like, why?
I don't understand that.
Yeah, you don't even have to support the guy. Just don't get in his way. It's like, don't put headwinds up. So
isn't the joke that they're like NPC? Is it NPC, non-player
characters? Yeah. Wait, who's NPCs? Like the administration?
Yeah, I think it's. I gotta say, Elon on Twitter, he has some great memes, or he shares some great memes. Yeah.
This is actually, see, I got there. Success is one of the possible outcomes.
Oh, hey, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Kent says, I live in RGV, Rio Grande Valley. I've been to Rocket Ranch. We need this. So Kent,
Oh yeah, Rocket Ranch.
Kent
Cool.
would like these operations to stay. Yeah, Damien says, I feel bad about the YouTubers who spent so much money and effort to move to Boca Chica. Can they get the same hands-on in the Cape? It's interesting. There are a lot of people that have literally moved to Boca Chica. It was crazy because I went there in September. You were there last year too.
Right.
And just going back last month, so much has changed. And I feel like there's a lot of new faces, and this is their thing. And a lot of people would suffer if this doesn't, pan out.
That's interesting. It looks like it's hard to tell from not being there, but I was planning on going back this summer, but I have a feeling it will be one of those like, holy crap, this place looked really different.
Oh yeah. So, it's eye-opening. Well,
at the it is spiralized potatoes. And apparently SpaceX, this is from one of my Discord Sandmax, so hey, what's up? SpaceX paid for all the children's activities and amusement rides to be for free at the festival. So that's cool. So yeah.
That is really nice. Yeah. Oh, another reason that I screwed up my timing.
Hey, it's okay. I missed the launch of serial number 15 by a week. So, all of us are like, oh.
Yeah, it's like one of those moments where you're just like kicking yourself.
Right.
Oh man. I have a question here, but that would completely change the topic. I do want to talk about the OneWeb stuff really quickly, just because that's, very much in the news right now. Right. And that is another current event. So it looks like that launch of the next batch of 36 OneWeb internet satellites probably won't happen unless the company meets the Russian state agency's demands, which are pretty insane. One of them is to sell its stake in OneWeb, and the other one is to guarantee that the sats will not be used for military purposes, which
it seems like either one of those things would work. Like if they sell their stake, how would they possibly, they couldn't have them be militarily
both like non-starters. Yeah, they're both, kind of crazy.
The problem is that I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's Kazakhstan that launches the anyway, it's launched by Russian rockets. So they're really in a
No, it's Kazakhstan. Yeah, it's in Kazakhstan.
I thought that they launched it from Kazakhstan, and
no, it was scheduled to lift off March 4th from Kazakhstan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's pretty crazy. Those negotiations are not really negotiations.
No. It's the same thing with Ukraine. They said they'd stop the invasion if Ukraine, basically if they did a whole bunch of things that no one's ever going to agree to. I think including the things like that NATO would have to agree to pull all troops out of Eastern Europe, like Poland, Czechoslovakia. Yeah, they'd have to. They're like no one's going to agree to this. That would be insane. So
right.
Yeah.
And then, really quickly, the last little current event here, I guess not little, on my list, March 4th, also, this was that Friday, we're expecting that impact to the moon.
Right.
But we know that it's apparently not a Falcon 9 upper stage, even though we thought it was. And yes, that's in my Scott Manley video. And we filmed that before we knew that. Right. But it sounds like it's tied to Chinese Long March 3C rockets that launched in 2014. So that will also be really interesting. So keep those things on your radar, folks. This Friday, there's a lot of interesting things that will or will not happen.
Or won't happen.
In terms of OneWeb. But you know what? We're getting a lot of engagement in the comments. So let's go back to some of these questions. Daniel wants to know, what are your opinions on AI? I'm guessing he's talking to you. And we were going to maybe talk about Tesla bot a little bit, but just in general, what are your opinions on AI? That's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah, that's like a huge topic. I've done so many videos. So if people don't know my channel, I do a lot of stuff specifically on AI, including multiple playlists. So if people want to go look on my channel, I get way into the weeds. But historically speaking, starting in the 1950s, there's these expansion and contraction eras of AI. So in the 50s, early 60s, it was AI is going to take over the world. We're going to have self-driving cars and talking robots and all of this stuff next year. And then it all sort of collapsed in the 70s. And then in the 80s, there was this big sort of expansion again. And everyone said, oh, yeah, AI is going to do all this stuff. And then that collapsed. And then the 90s were kind of a dead time into the early 2000s. And then starting around 2012 with AlexNet, and winning the ImageNet challenge contest and everything with the deep neural networks. And now everybody knows what a deep neural network is. But the last decade has been this huge expansion cycle. And I've been concerned that we could be nearing the end of that and we could be going back to a contraction again. But the thing that's giving me a lot of hope right now is actually hardware more than software. So I've started looking into neuromorphic chips and analog computing as opposed to digital computing. And those two technologies could actually allow us, because the problem is what we're doing is we're really pushing the boundaries of GPUs and memory access and hard drive space and blah, blah, blah. We're just pushing the boundaries of all that stuff into how much more neural network work we can do. But these new technologies could actually kind of break that bottleneck apart and allow us to continue pushing forward at a really, really rapid rate. If you think about what 2012 was like, I mean, even something like, my iPhone with if I say, hey, Siri, it's going to, yeah. As soon as I say that, it's like pops up. So, but what it was like in 2012 versus now, you can actually have a conversation with your little Alexa device or your phone or whatever, and it's pretty reasonable now.
Yeah.
And things like auto translations, like, so if I go on, I read a lot of German articles because I've been following Giga Berlin a lot with Tesla, and you just go there and it's like bing, 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 and it translates, and it's a pretty reasonable translation.
Right.
Just it's astounding how far we've gotten in 10 years. So gosh, if we keep going at this rate, what 2032 is going to be like.
Well, I guess, what do you think 2032 could look like?
I don't think we'll own cars anymore. That's the biggest takeaway for us normal human beings. I think that the kind of like robo-taxi evolution of Uber, where there's just fleets of cars that drive themselves around. Because think about it, if you really want to own a car, cars are like super expensive. They cost a lot of money. They cost, like, you have to like give up an entire room of your house if you want to put them in a garage.
Yeah.
Right. So that garage could be like a workout gym or knitting studio. Who knows, right? It could be something else besides being a wasted space where that car is sitting. So, and also it would cost less.
Well, look at the prices of gas. I mean, holy crap.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know. Every time I drive by the gas station with my Model Y, I'm just like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
So, but assuming that full self-driving continues to progress as fast as it does, and I actually have the full self-driving beta, so I'm like marching forward with what they're doing, which is really cool to watch, especially as somebody who like works in the field. I'm just like, wow, this is amazing to see how they're doing this. But I've been predicting by the end of 2022 that they would effectively have solved full self-driving for anybody who cares, to level 4, not level 5. But that then there would be a period of a couple of years of regulatory approval,
right?
And NHTSA and all those people would have to figure it out. But so somewhere around 2025, 2026, 2027, somewhere in that area, it would get approved in many communities in the country because it'd be safer. At which point it becomes cheaper to hail a car rather than own it. So, and you could take like a family, like we own 2 cars. So even if we wanted to keep one, we could sell the other one or get rid of the other one. And for most things like going to work or going to the grocery store, it would just be cheaper to take one of these robo taxis as opposed to driving your own car. And that's going to have a huge impact on the auto industry. Like,
not only cheaper, but also safer at a certain point than us driving.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that I've discovered with the full self-driving. And for people who don't know, there's an awful lot of FUD, speaking of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that says that this is dangerous, it's killing people, just follow the money. Most of the people who are saying that have a stake in some other solution, or they don't want it to succeed. And so that's the reason why. But I can tell you, driving it now, currently what it is kind of like a hybrid thing where like I have specific areas where I take over, and usually it's because I'm really impatient and the car is a lot more chill than I am. And I admit that that means I'm much more dangerous than the car because the car is going to take its time and get there. So, but anyway, but certainly like driving on the highway, I never ever drive myself on the highway anymore. So,
Wow.
and every single day I commute like 5 miles on the highway to get from my house to work, etc. So that's just a chunk of drive that I don't even have to worry about anymore. And
I,
it's safer.
I
It's
was going to
safer than
say,
driving.
did you see that recent piece by a network that I won't name, like slamming Tesla and
I actually did a video on that. Yeah. So
FSD? Yeah, you saw it.
right.
I mean, yeah. Um,
Yeah, there was, I mean, even the fact of if you watch the most kind of damning thing that they have in the entire video is that red light that it's run. But if you look at it, they cut into it when he's already in the intersection and the car's moving. So I think that the frame, like they cut it because it was yellow and the car was in the intersection and then it turned red and then it kept going. And I think that they just cut it to make it look like the car was going through a red light. But so, you know, that's very disingenuous if they're not giving the entire sequence that took place.
Ben H, thank you for the super chat. He says, thank you, Ellie and Dr. KIA. Dr. Know-It-All. I wish he would review Elon's history regarding why he pushes so hard to complete these projects. He has been racing against a time we no longer can pursue. Why he pushes so hard to complete these projects, in air quotes.
I mean, I can take a guess at what maybe hopefully you can like write and like
maybe he's asking for a video request, but
yeah, maybe. But I mean, I think like the short answer is I think that he's worried.
Yeah,
he's worried about like specifically SpaceX is getting us the heck off of this planet and trying to help us make sure that we spread out. I actually am reading is it Kim Stanley Robinson, the book Red Mars. There's a trilogy: is Red Mars, Blue Mars, and Green Mars, and he's like writing, it's a really excellent novel written in the 90s that was a very like really hard science fiction, like attempted to really think about what it would be like. And you can see the long, like how long it would take to actually make something like this happen. It's generations. And you know, there's only a limited amount of time that we're going to have to be able to make something like this happen. And we need to make it happen. So, I mean, there's just not even a question. Eventually something will happen to the earth that will be really bad.
Right.
It's just a matter of time.
I do want to address all the people that are very upset by the idea of their cars being taken away.
Nobody's going to take it away. This is the thing that people don't understand. You will make that decision because it's economically more beneficial. And I know the United States has a love affair with cars. So we're like the country that's going to be the worst about it. I think most of the countries in Europe, they'll just be like, you know, get rid of this car. I don't care.
Right.
But maybe the UK, probably Australia. But anyway, I think that when you realize that it will cost you half as much to own this other thing, not own this thing, but rent it, you'll do that. Because why would you spend twice as much money for something that's at heart just a pain in the butt?
Well, good thing to know that people have the choice, because clearly a lot of people want the choice. So Alderstrom also, thank you for the super chat. He wants, I think it's a he, I'm not sure. You want to know, what are your thoughts on UFOs, UAPs, propulsion technology? The alleged motion of these objects suggests that our current physics understanding is still in the dark ages. Well, Mr. Physics, are we?
Oh, man, I stay away from all this stuff. Well, the reason why is because it sort of tails into, it just reminds me of Bigfoot videos. Like, okay, once we actually have some serious evidence, and I know people say like, oh, here's this Navy flight thing with like a thing that's moving out of the way. Yeah, the Tic Tac. I saw a UFO myself driving through California. It was an amazing thing. And I can't explain it to this day, but I have no reason to suspect that it was a UFO. The likelihood is it was something that could be very much explained by something going on Earth. Now, I want to make a very important caveat. I'm a very firm believer that there is life not on this planet. I also very firmly, I shouldn't say believe, but none of the evidence so far indicates that that life has gotten to Earth in terms of intelligent life, little green men and UFOs and things like that. So I'm just like, sure, when we get enough evidence, then we'll look at it. I do, however, think that we have actually discovered pretty good indications that there's life on Mars, or at least there was, if there's not currently right now. So I don't want people to think I'm like just denying all this stuff. I just think that space is really, really, really big. And so if there was aliens that developed on a planet on a star 5,000 light years away, it's going to be really hard for them to get here. Oh no, I can't see the comments, so I'm sure someone's disagreeing with me here.
Someone said he looked in a mirror because you said you've seen a UFO. That's dumb.
There we go.
Oh man. Well, I don't think you're a UFO if that gives you any.
Well, I've even got look at the Starship Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise, I've got the star. Anyway,
yes,
I would love it to be true. I would love there to be aliens. I actually for years ran that SETI thing that you could run on your computer that would look for detection. Oh, yeah. I mean, it would make me the happiest person in the world, but I just don't think there's any evidence of it.
Yeah.
So
okay, so people are still talking about the robo taxi stuff.
Oh, we touched a nerve.
I know. Well, John Beek writes, latest climate change report shows the worst case models underestimated how quickly and how badly our planet is being affected. So we need to get to Mars.
Yes. But I mean, I'm not even talking about climate change because that's a relatively slow, it's not a good thing at all. But I'm talking about like asteroid impact, super volcano explosion, right, gamma ray burst. Something like that will happen eventually. It may take another million years before it gets here, but who knows how long our civilization will last. Yeah. I think what Elon Musk said recently was really valuable to think about. He's like, it took 4.5 billion years to get to the state on this planet where anybody could leave it. And he's like, how long could this last? It might last it could be 5 more years. It could be another 1,000 years, but whatever that is, it's a limited time window and then it won't be available anymore. Right. And eventually the sun's going to get too big also. I think it's about 100 million years ish before the sun's going to get too hot and boil off all the water on the planet. So, I know, and you're like, it's 100 million years, but it doesn't sound that long in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So yeah, it's incumbent upon us to leave. We've got to go.
Mars Embassy says, I have a big fear that when China gets to the moon and or Mars before us, they're going to try to claim it and set their own laws and rules and regulations.
Yeah, that's honestly my biggest fear. I mean, obviously the whole Russia thing I worry about because they have a lot of nuclear weapons, so that's terrifying. But the biggest fear in terms of space is China. They're that's why I'm like, we need to get out of Elon Musk's way, because it's like if we just keep throwing up all of these roadblocks, the Chinese are going to get full self-driving solved first, and the Chinese are going to get to the moon and to Mars, to the moon again, and to the Mars the first time. They'll do all this stuff first because they have an incredibly focused desire to do that. Yeah. And we don't. We're like kids on the playground fighting with each other while the other kid goes and, I don't know, makes a whole business or something. starts a TikTok following, becomes really famous. We're just playing around and doing nothing meanwhile.
Yeah, no, you make great points. All right. Oh, wow. There's a lot of questions. Okay. Um, hmm.
Oh, so the Mars embassy just wrote me, and he's like on my thing, and he's like, I told you people wouldn't like the idea of not having a car.
Yeah, no.
Remember, it will be your choice. No one will force you to not have a car.
Yeah, one of the comments said steering wheel or death. So, um, Handyman IRD says, Ellie and Dr. No, can you comment on other rocket launch space companies like Astra, Rocket Lab, etc.? You very familiar with those? I mean, I know who they are, but like, are you, do you
Yeah,
follow them closely?
well, Rocket Lab a lot more than Astra.
Okay,
I mean, and Astra is just kind of like beginning.
right. I went to their building.
Right. Did you? That's cool.
So
Wow.
Astra is in the same neck of the woods as Scott Manley. And I tried to get a tour while I was there, and they were all still working remotely. So, wah, wah, another missed
I
opportunity.
know. I went to the Fremont factory last summer and tried to get a tour there, but they were doing the same thing. So, but I think all of these you can kind of wrap up into, I hope that they're all successful, because the more choices and the more niches that everybody can
Right.
fill, because most of like Astra and Rocket Lab and Virgin Orbital with their like plane launched rockets, all of those are great for small cargo options. And of course, which one is it now? Is it the Neutron, right? The yeah. So Rocket Lab's Neutron rocket is supposed to be substantially larger and kind of rival the Falcon 9 approximately in the amount of cargo it can take up. I would love to see another one of these companies be able to get to something like a human rated vehicle. I think that would be a good thing, but that's you gotta crawl before you can walk in terms of that kind of stuff.
Right. Let's see. We've seen this question twice now. This is most definitely for you. It is not for me. Have you ever used OpenAI GPT-3? And do you think Tesla bot and cars, for that matter, will use that technology?
Okay, I have not used GPT-3 myself. I definitely know it.
What is it? Tell
Okay.
us for the 5-year-old.
Oh gosh, oh, I always forget the acronym. I'm gonna have to look it up. Somebody on my Discord channel, look it up. But anyway, it's the third version of, essentially it started off as a language modeling program, and it's OpenAI. So this is another one of Elon Musk's companies. So just go figure, right? As if he's not doing enough stuff already. And also, of course, Neuralink, which we haven't even talked about, which the whole idea of that is to actually link humans and computers together. Yeah, Dusty's he's gonna give me an answer here in just a second. I'm gonna oh, okay, never mind. I was waiting to get the information on GPT-3, but anyway, so it started off as a language modeling like neural network, really big one. And then the second one was really big, and GPT-3 is, oh, I think it's 140 billion parameters, something along those lines. So that, if you think about that, that's like like a bunch of dials that you can maneuver around. Like if you think about, I don't know, like a mixing board, like a sound mixing board, and you have those little dials you can mix. There's like 140 billion of those mixing like little dials. So yeah, so it's absolutely insanely complicated.
It's called generative pre-trained transformer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I was like, the generative was what was throwing me. I was trying to remember what that was. But yeah, so basically what you do is you train this thing, and it costs over $5 million to train it because it's so big. Yeah. I think they had to rent time out with Microsoft. I think that's who it was that did the training. Maybe NVIDIA, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, but it's pre-trained. And so what you can do is take that and modify the training to do anything now. And I'm not talking about just language. It apparently just does everything. And there's sort of like, it's possible that GPT-4 or something along those lines might actually approach general artificial intelligence. The kind of big news in AI right now is that it almost doesn't matter what particular architecture you use. There's people who are arguing back and forth between transformers and, geez, convolutional neural networks are back in favor again, and RNNs and LSTMs, and speaking of acronyms, all of this crap. But people argue about which architecture is best, but it's becoming kind of clear that it doesn't matter as long as you make it big enough, which if you think about like our brains, our brains aren't like a specialized architecture. They're just a crap ton of neurons that are all firing. So basically, if you can just put enough of them in there, you'll get something that is smart, and it kind of doesn't matter nearly as much as you'd think exactly what it is, what kind of architecture it is. At least that's the latest indication. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate the generative pre-trained transformer. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, that's it's the problem is it's so freaking big. Like people are like, oh, have you used it? And I'm like, I don't have a computer that can run this thing. It's monstrous. So
do you think that it will be used with Tesla bot and cars? Do you think Tesla will use it?
Oh, this is I know I'm going to get called on this because somebody's going to be like, nah, you're not right. But my personal opinion is the route that they're going right now is going to solve full self-driving. So they're not going to need something like GPT-3, but they already have a really, really complicated architecture to do this. Then the first generation of Tesla bot's going to use exactly what they're using for full self-driving. So it's going to be this kind of HydroNet, the visual systems, all of that kind of stuff is going to be used for the first gen of Tesla bot. But I could certainly see in the second or third generation of Tesla bot that GPT-4 or something along those lines might end up in the Tesla bot. So I think yes, eventually. I don't think right away.
Okay.
Because one of the problems with GPT-3 is it's really big, like I said. And when you're dealing with a humanoid robot or a car, you've got a very, very, what was that from? Oh, it was Aladdin. It's like, ultimate power, little tiny living space. So, you're trying to fit a massive, massive neural network that takes a lot of energy, a lot of memory, and you're trying to squeeze it down into basically a laptop computer. So there's only so far you can go with that.
Right. I love this username, by the way. Derpy Gamer 13 says AI is like colors, so many different versions.
Colors, so many different what?
AI is like colors, so many different versions.
Oh, I'm going to tell you what I heard from that. Wow. So, wow. That was why I had to look at you. I was like, what did that person just? Yes, absolutely. And there are still people like, so I have a startup business with my partner, and we're doing something with a generative neural network right now, but we're actually talking about this right now, about putting principal component analysis, PCA, into the middle of the neural network. And PCA is like before neural networks made their big comeback in the mid 2010s. PCA and SVM, more acronyms, my goodness. But anyway, they were like the big stuff. And so there's no reason why we can't roll some of that stuff back into the modern neural network. So yeah, I do agree. Even beyond just neural network architectures, there's a bunch of other types of machine learning that can be very effective used with neural networks or even instead of them. So
interesting. That is not my area of expertise. It sounds like you've answered the question.
People are probably going to be like, what the hell did that mean? What did that mean? What did that mean?
Yeah, I hesitate hanging on it too long, because for some people like me, I'm like, I need to do more learning about that. Someone said Elon is the man. He's playing from a playbook no billionaire has ever used. I think it's a good point. And, it really is true. Like there is so much controversy surrounding Elon. And, I meat a lot of people, like friends even, that don't like him. And I think, it's unfortunate. What are your thoughts?
So in a weird like twist of fate, I actually went to school with Jeff Bezos, like to college. So he graduated in 86. I graduated in 87. So I might actually see him at the Princeton reunions this spring. We'll see.
Did you know him then?
Yeah, but I mean, he was a nobody. I knew, like, it's not like we were buddies or anything, but I knew of him. I always said my biggest mistake in life was graduating and not going and working for Amazon.
Oh my God.
I could have just, back in those days, I could have called him up and said, hey, I want to work for you. And he would have been like, cool. Now I'm sure he doesn't know who the hell I am, but anyway, so I don't want to speak ill of Jeff, but he fits a little bit more, I think, the kind of mold of the billionaire that people don't like. Partially because it feels like he's lost touch with normal reality a little bit. And that's the thing that's different with Elon Musk, for me at least personally, is just the fact, and one of my favorite things is the fact that he's on Twitter just being a complete doofus. Right? He posts like dumb memes, he responds, he actually gets into Twitter wars with people. Like, you know, I'm like, cool, you know, he's like, I can still see his regular humanity. Like, he hasn't become some sort of like weirdly dissociated figure that doesn't understand what normal life is like. And just the fact that he doesn't even own a home anymore. I mean, that's pretty cool.
It is.
Apparently he couch surfs a lot. So
yes, I'm trying to, there was a really funny tweet that he had that I saw. But yeah, I mean, even just, you know, think about how public everything they're doing down in Texas with SpaceX is compared to Blue Origin. You know, I mean,
that's pretty crazy, honestly. Like, I just couldn't believe when I drove in there, and I just drove right up to the Starship and parked on the side of the road and walked around and looked at it, and I was like, this feels wrong. Like, until
you're there, you don't realize how close you are. I mean, it's literally on the side of the road. And one thing that I noticed too is like that road that you can walk down to see the rocket garden. Like, before, it was kind of hush hush and, you know, don't be too obvious about it. And this past time, I mean, there were families and grandparents and whoever walking around. So I feel like it's even more public, which kind of surprised me. So people, oh, here's this dumb tweet. People were asking me, well, how do you do that? Do you need to get permission? Is it hard? I'm like, it's really not. You just like straight up start walking down the road. That's it. Let's see. So someone tweeted, this was just like yesterday, just so everyone knows, you're the only one who controls your Twitter, right? To Elon. And Elon replied, well, I do have multiple personality disorder, but they're all technically in the same head. Like, what a funny guy. I love his sense of humor. He's hilarious.
It's pretty bad. I hate to admit it, but my Discord channel actually has a Tesla bot, a Elon Musk bot that like gets all of his tweets and puts them all in a thread.
Oh my God. I love that.
He always tweets in the middle of the night. And so I wake up in the morning and there's like 12 or 15 Elon tweets, and I just read them right in a row. And I'm like, this guy is a goofball.
It's amazing how much you can like garner just from looking on his Twitter. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, recently he even got into it about some of the stuff about LiDAR, and he talks a lot about local maximums. And I actually did a video just a couple of days ago about that, because I was like, I don't think people, like the general public, knows exactly what he's talking about, but it's actually really cool that he's talking about that. So, you know, but yeah, I mean, his Twitter thing is amazing. The Elon bot is great. Yeah, one of my Discord members was like, yo, the Elon bot's great. You know, that thing, it's awesome because it just sits there in the background and just calls all of the things that he tweets out. So
that's awesome. That makes me want to join your Discord.
There you go. Well, hey, ask and you shall be given.
Yeah, maybe you can. I have Discord too, but I'm not super savvy with it.
It really kind of runs itself after you get going, especially if you get a couple of knowledgeable people who are, because they can like modify it and everything. But then after a while, it's just mostly everybody just chats. You know, we've got like about a half dozen or so threads, and people just post wherever they want to. So it's actually very cool. It's a good community.
Chris Mugallian says, I love both you guys. Aw. Thank you. Daniel Sateller, he's been asking you a lot of those AI questions. He says, Jeff Bezos was the university space group president, right? Question mark?
I believe that's correct. You got to remember, it's a long time ago now. Yeah. Where I'm going for my 35th reunion. I'm like, oh gosh.
Wow.
But he was really, really influenced, and I'm totally going to blank on the name because I suck at remembering names. But the guy who wants to build these giant orbital structures that are like big rotating. Whenever I think Interstellar, for example, at the end of Interstellar, maybe, and then definitely Elysium, that big giant round thing that has like farms and cows and stuff in it, that just spins around in orbit. Bezos was very influenced by that, and he really wants to, his goal is different than Musk's. Musk wants to get us off the planet and as far away as possible so that we start building life out. And Jeff Bezos wants to turn the Earth into a park and put all of industry into orbit. I mean, I think they're both reasonable options. They're just really, really different visions of what to do.
But I think they're both great.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And they certainly both can happen. There's no reason why it has to be one or the other.
When you say turn it into a park, it makes me think of, this is really off topic, but I did a story back at my previous market in Washington for the news where they're the first state to legalize human composting. So if you would like to become, a truck bed full of compost and be planted, that's a thing. And if your family doesn't want to claim you, then you can be donated to a park. So that made me think of the world being a park.
It's a little macabre, but actually I buy into that a lot more than what happens when most people get buried, because they fill them full of toxic chemicals. And like you become like a poison instead of a good thing. It's like, and it should be a good thing. And
cremation isn't great for the environment either. So, hey, why not give back?
I thought when you said human compost, you meant like poop and stuff.
No. I mean,
it's also a good thing, right?
I mean, like they put you in like a cradle for like 6 weeks and roll you around with all of these wood chips, and then poof, it's magic.
That's a little bit too real, man.
Yeah, no, that was like, I did a 2-part series on that, but
oh my gosh, that's cool.
Derpy Gamer 13 says, Eliana, thanks for your content on Starlink in Ukraine. I don't watch mainstream media and platforms like yours is super awesome. I appreciate that. I am, it's interesting because my day job is I'm a TV news reporter, and it's nice to have a platform like YouTube where I can, tell the story in its entirety. Whereas like with news stories today, for example, I ran into this issue. My story was timing out at like 3.5 minutes and I only had 2 minutes. So I had to cut so much of it. It was just like devastating to me. It's like, but people don't really understand that a little bit. But I was also telling you, it was interesting. I was interviewing someone local here in Salt Lake City for my story. And he was like, wait, are you on YouTube talking about space? And so that was
the moment of fame. It's already here. There you go.
That was really cool. Planeta Tierra, thank you so much for the super chat and the heart. A lot of love going on tonight.
There we go. I've had 3 people ask about Tesla bot on Mars. So I don't know if we want to talk about that or not, but
go for it.
Oh gosh. Oh,
the floor is yours. Uh-oh.
I will no. I actually think Tesla bot, this goes into a whole bunch of other stuff. I think the Tesla bot on Mars is the only way to colonize Mars personally. That human beings are way too fragile to do it. And so what we need to do is send, and I think it was Dusty, he's one of the people anyway, he said you have to compare these Tesla bots not to human beings like we are right now with our fingers and stuff, but like to human beings wearing big thick space gloves trying to do stuff. And he's like, Tesla bots don't have to be that dexterous to be better than a person in a big pair of gloves. So I was like, yeah, that's true. But also, you can send them into space. They don't need food, they don't need water. They just need a solar panel and charge up, or a little nuclear thermal isotope reactor or something like that. And they can work 24 hours a day, basically. Right. So that's way better than sending humans to Mars at first. So, yeah.
And seems way more efficient. And I mean, to me, that totally makes sense.
It's a little bit sad because, as a human being, I'm always like, yeah, let's go explore. Let's do some crazy stuff. But
we can do that later. We're going to get there eventually, but let's get the thing up and running.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be nice to be able to get there and actually have some place to go, like stay.
Yeah.
So, like it's really cold out here. This
Yeah.
sucks.
I know. I do want to point out to people that are watching, this is the first time I've actually met you.
Yeah.
So yes, you're very enjoyable to talk to.
Well,
And we
you too.
have Marina tuning in from Ukraine. Wow, Marina, thank you for tuning in. And
much love to you.
Yeah,
Seriously,
much
my
love
gosh.
to you. And we hope that you are safe. If you, are you, I have a lot of questions actually.
Yeah, wow.
Stephen H, miss you here in the Tri-Cities. Oh, I miss you in the Tri-Cities too. That's where I was living before this. I think about the Tri-Cities a lot. Thank you. Call me Big Papa. That is the username. Call me Big Papa. Thank you for the super chat. He appreciates my video of the crawler moving Starship. So I don't know if you saw that. It was my last day in Texas in Boca Chica, and they moved ship 22 down the road and then took it to the rocket garden. And I happened to be right there laying in the grass, just POV, this thing coming toward me, like looking like this giant behemoth if it had toppled over. Well, there goes Ellie in space, but I'm willing to take the risks.
You would have gone out with a big finish though.
Yeah, the video would have gone viral. So let's see here. Oh yeah, all these people in the comments giving some love and support to Marina. Thank you guys for telling her much love from America, because it's true. She says that she's okay. She says that in her area it's okay, but other regions on the borders, rocket bombs kill people. It's so sad.
Yeah,
it's so sad.
Yeah, we talk about all this stuff, but that's like it's very sobering to like realize what's actually going on right now.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard to not think about. Obviously, I mean, we should think about it, but it's just obviously too, working for the news, we've been covering that a lot. And I've talked to a lot of local Ukrainians that are really worried about, their family and their loved ones still in Ukraine right now. We've talked to some people that are Utahns, but they also have ties there. And it's just, I really hope that there's a resolution sooner than later.
Right. Yeah, for everybody's sake, for sure. Man.
Well, thank you, Marina, for watching, and please stay safe.
Thank you for joining us at 4:15 in the morning, I think.
I was gonna say,
somewhere around there.
Yeah. Dakota says Rocket Garden is such a good name. Yep, it really is. It's a cool little area there at Starbase, and now they have more lawn ornaments. So
right. I haven't had it. When I went there a year ago, it didn't exist. So
really,
yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to go back and actually see it. That's exciting.
Oh, it's stunning. It's just insane.
And I think they just move one of them to the Brownsville airport too.
So they were going to.
There.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to. I'm not sure if they have yet. I would probably know about that if they had. I know for sure they're going to, but and then there were also like some comments about if SN22 is being scrapped, and it might be because it could have been configured for Raptor 1, and since they're moving to Raptor 2 now, it possibly is. There was a question of, is this just making space, storage space, or are they scrapping it? And I'm starting to lean toward the idea that they're just moving on.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mars Embassy. Sorry, I was wrong. He said they haven't moved it yet. So I think what I got confused about was 22.
Yeah, 22 is the one that they moved down the road, and I was like, oh my God, please don't kill me, but also come closer.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I've got a question for both of us, I guess. Are we going to the Texas party? The Austin.
Of course, they're talking about GigaFest, and of
course, GigaFest.
And of course, I don't have an answer for you because okay, so there's two things. There's GigaFest, and then there's TeslaCon. And TeslaCon is being organized and put on by some of my friends, including Matt Holm, who I did a video with him. He's like a big time real estate investor there. And he also runs the Tesla Owners Club of Austin. So he's putting on like a more extended party, and they're going to take like a caravan down to Starbase at the end. But then there's GigaFest, and you have to like get an invite. And silly me, I'm like, well, maybe I can reach out to Tesla's press department and see if I can get a media pass. I don't think they have a press department. No,
they don't.
They don't.
They literally do not.
Like I said, silly me. I had the thought, and then I tried to research it, and then I realized, oh shit. So that is a good question for both of us. I think our answers would probably both be that we would love to go, but we're not sure how we're going to get in. I mean, I'm a Tesla shareholder now, so you know.
It's like, yeah, but I don't even want to think about how big the party would be if they had every single shareholder.
I know. I'm just trying to, like, make my case.
That's right. Make it a positive.
But
well, we can both make our case. We can just go like this, not to beg, but please, please let us go.
I know I've been wanting to book tickets, and it's like, should I? Is this just going to be one of those? I mean, I have no idea if I have any chances of getting in.
Well, I think if Berlin was any indication, just getting in the area is pretty cool too.
Yeah, so, true. Yeah, but we all want to go inside, man.
I know. Last time, so my story with Giga Texas was, we drove there, we had the Model Y, right? We were doing our tour, and we went to Brownsville first, and we went to see the Boca Chica and all that. Drove back up to Austin. Huge rainstorm hit right while we were going through, so everything was muddy. Drove into, we didn't know exactly. I was just like, well, there's the factory because it's huge.
Oh
yeah. So we kind of drove around and finally found an entrance and drove right up to the door. And this guy comes walking out, super, super nice guy. He's like, you're really not allowed to be here. So we're like, oh, sorry. So we asked him, and he was like, you got to go over here. So we had to drive like all the way around the building. But anyway, they were really nice, but it was instantly like somebody was right there going like, you do not belong here. So
interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't have anyone try to kick me out while I was there, but I didn't get that close.
Right. Yeah, we just sort of drove right up to it. And at the time, it was just a big mud field. That's why I remembered that it rained because it was just drove through the mud.
Well, here's the crazy thing. That guy, Matt Holm and Anwar Beck, they're both like huge, like in the Tesla community. And even they haven't been inside. And then they even told me that there are some people that are like new hires or like, soon to be new hires, and they're not allowed inside until they're actually hired. So like, yeah, it's no joke.
I don't know what they're going to do with this party, because when it really appeared that they pretty much opened it up. Like,
yeah, we should have gone to that one. What are we doing?
I know.
Isn't that like in a few weeks? Or
the Giga Berlin?
Yeah.
There's another one. That's just but I'm talking about the one last fall where they had the Ferris wheel and all kind of.
I thought I saw a headline that there's going to be one later this month.
Yeah. But I think that's just a delivery event. I heard there's only going to be like 500 people at that one.
Oh,
so yeah.
Darn. Chris Mugallian says they politely told me no entry without a badge. Well,
yeah,
I could hold up my business card and say I identify as this being a badge, and maybe it'll work.
It's like you didn't specify what badge, you just said a badge. Here's a badge.
Derpy Gamer 13, Eliana, will you go to Boca Chica to see the first Starship launch? Of course. Question is when? Yeah. Absolutely. I will drop everything.
Right.
I will literally drop everything. I was about to tell an embarrassing story. I don't know if I'm willing to do that yet. Daniel says, have you
ever... No. You got to tell the story first.
Okay, I will. Have you ever talked to Tim, the everyday astronaut? Daniel, I was set to interview Tim on my last trip to Starbase. However, he had to leave for some reasons. And so we are going to do that soon. But that actually literally ties in to my embarrassing story. All right, we're going for it. This is such a bummer. So I missed my flight to Texas when I went. And it wasn't because I was late. This has never happened to me. I was kind of like blown away by it. Actually, I was going to fly to San Antonio, rent a car, drive to Austin, then drive to Brownsville, then fly out through San Antonio. The flights to Brownsville aren't great. And I wanted to see Austin. So my idea was to like kind of go somewhere in the middle and rent a car and whatever. And so long story short, I went to the Austin gate the morning of my flight instead of San Antonio. The Austin flight was delayed by like almost 2 hours because there was something they needed to get a new plane. And I'm thinking, man, my flight's delayed. What a big bummer. And I'm like walking around the airport trying to kill time. And I was like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be going to San Antonio. And this was like 30 minutes past boarding the beginning, but then also like 10 minutes before I was supposed to leave. So I like ran for my life through the airport. They were like, no. And I'm like heaving out of breath. And then I'm like, then get me back to that flight that's delayed. That flight was full. But I went back to that gate anyway. And I just like I was sitting on my suitcase. I was all sweaty. I looked all cute before I got real sweaty after that run. Salt Lake City's a big airport. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, this is going to happen. Like fate, universe, I'm going to Austin. I'm going to get a new rental car. This sucks. I don't feel like the smartest astronaut. But anyway, somehow I got a flight or a seat in comfort class and I made it to Austin and I literally booked a new rental car as I was waiting to take off and it was crazy and stupid. But I think that my head was in the clouds because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to interview Lab Padre and I'm going to get to interview everyday astronaut. Cause that was like confirmed like just the night before. And so I was just like really like anticipating and like really overwhelmed. And then I missed my freaking flight, but it worked out because I got to Austin sooner anyway. So I just told you guys a very embarrassing story, but the moral of the story is that we all make mistakes. And sometimes, you know, like things work out in better ways. And yes, long story short, I will be interviewing Tim, but I'm not sure yet when.
Cool. Wow. Good for you for nailing that one. That's awesome. He's always the one that interviews everybody else. That's pretty good.
Oh, he's awesome. You know, we did have the plan of maybe being able to go to, I would meet up with him in Iowa, you know, because that's where he's from.
Right.
Tim's a farm boy. So
yeah. Oh, I know. I've actually been following Tim since he was an Instagram guy with the orange spacesuit that took pictures. Like I've been following him for so long. So when you meet him, say hi from me, because you know how it is. There's like no way that he'll ever see anything that I send to him. I'm super impressed you were able to like get in touch with him. It's like so impossible. But anyway.
I thought it was until I tried a different method. But yeah, once again, I really can't wait for that interview. I've had so many people ask me to do it. And I mean, that's really what I love to do is interview people and get kind of the backstory on a lot of these people. Okay, people are still talking in the comments about Russia stuff. Let's
goody.
see.
I have to give you a warning. Well, we've been talking for a long time. My battery on my like wireless thing is like starting to get low. Well, so I mean, you know, it's already been an hour and a half. So
it has been. You'd be surprised. Some of these live streams, it's crazy. Some of these things.
Oh yeah, they can go on.
Do you guys have any other? Oh, I think your name is pronounced Firas. Hello. Let's see. Ooh, call me Big Papa. This is a great question. He says, will you be visiting any of these simulated Mars colonies they have set up? Yes, I will be. So
there's one in Utah, isn't there?
Yes. So there's one in Utah, and I have been corresponding with the dude who kind of runs it, and he is working to get me a half day with the next crew, which should be either later this month or in April. So I'm really excited to document that because like how cool. I mean, obviously I would love to like be a part of that crew, but you know, if I can interview them about what that's like, yes, I definitely plan to cover a simulated Mars colony. So it should be pretty cool.
So how intense is that Mars colony thing? Like, do you have to wait 20 minutes before you can get a response back? And like,
I am literally going to answer all those questions.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know. I actually don't know. I know that they're pretty like kind of hush hush about the exact location. they don't want a lot of people
Right.
coming to check it out, you know, but,
Yeah, it wouldn't give you that sense of isolation if there was huge crowds standing around.
right. But yeah, that's something really exciting that I
That's
have
cool.
planned.
Wow.
And then let's see here. Anton's World of Video says Star Wars Theory goes on for 3 or 4 hours. Well, I've never watched Star Wars Theory, but that's sounds like a pretty long live stream.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, you guys, while we're talking to Dr. Know-It-All, are there any other questions that you would like me to ask John, Dr. Know-It-All? Dr. Know-It-All, you and I both have a shared passion, and that is rock climbing.
Yes, I thought you were going to say rockets, but I'm like, yes, rock climbing.
Rock
climbing. Anything that starts with a rock is all good.
Fair game.
Actually, yeah, I was actually the reason we're doing this tonight is because in 48 hours I will be in Colorado skiing. Well, probably not skiing right this moment, but anyway, to ski. So,
that's exciting.
That's
exciting.
It's pretty, of course, it was also 75 degrees out today in Georgia. So, you know, the positive is that it's already springtime here.
Wow. Yeah, it's actually pretty warm today here too in Salt Lake City. It's like the birds were chirping and I'm like, wow, we're getting into spring.
That's cool.
Marina from Ukraine, I'm thinking now how they would ensure reboost without Russian system. So we talked about that a little bit earlier, the ISS and some of the options. A lot of people are, a lot of people are talking.
I really think in the near term, it sounds like Cygnus might be the best option, or Dream Chaser,
right?
Which is that space plane looking thing. It looks like a little tiny space shuttle, but that could actually boost the, and of course, Boeing Starliner. That should have been ready to go years ago. And it's yeah, exactly. That's no, you can't mention. Speaking of that, the angry astronaut, like I think he's still waiting to blow up his Boeing coffee mug. I think he's waiting for 90,000 subscribers and then he's going to launch. He says launch, essentially.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's awesome. Oh, here's a question for you. Daniel Sateller, he says, in your interview with Scott Manley, he said that SpaceX is running a space company with a software philosophy: go fast, test, crash, and again. Do you have any comments on that?
Me? I think it's actually, I think it's software, but it's also a Soviet mentality. And I really do mean Soviet this time. That's not a mistake. Like in the 1960s under Korolev, and I told you this before we talked, I'm like a gigantic, like, space history nerd.
Lay it on me.
Yes, but anyway, but under him, they just had this thing, like while the United States had this Germanic, Werner von Braun and his group of people, it's like, test all the parts, make sure they work, put it together really carefully, do it little. The Soviets were just like, well, let's just try this. Boom. Oh, let's try this. Boom. They would just keep throwing things together and slapping them together. And so they were able to iterate really, really quickly because of that. So I think it's a software mentality for sure, but I think it's also that kind of Soviet era, just like, I mean, look at the Starships when they were just going, they were just like, here goes number 8.
Right.
Like they just explode. So
I know it's been sad how long it's been since we've
seen it kind of got exciting watching those. It was like, well, either way, it's going to be exciting. I think that and hopefully it'll be in Boca Chica, but when the first super heavy Starship, I just hope it clears the tower, because I would hate to see that tower get blown up, because it's like such a cool tower. But if it could be really spectacular. I mean, 2 stages, 30, about, what is it, 29, like 32, 33, 34 rockets. It could be a pretty big explosion.
Yeah. Another question from Handyman IRD. What do you think about the trip to Mars? COVID lockdown a couple of months drove people crazy. The trip to Mars will take 6 months in a much more confined space. How will humans not go crazy? I don't think everyone's a worthy candidate of that mission.
I think there's going to have to be some very, very careful psychological testing. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the, but I think the whole Mars, the fake Mars things that they've set up all over the place, that's partly to really get a sense of that.
Right.
Like, what is it like to be isolated for over a year
Right.
without being able to be in contact? So that's why I was asking you that question about the delay, because one of the things is you can't even like call your mom or something, right?
Yeah.
If you want to call her, it's like, dude, then wait for the signal to come back,
Yeah.
say another line, dude, back and forth.
Well, and if you're really curious about just what that would look like, everyone should read the book Packing for Mars by Mary Roach. It is so informative and really just talks about why this is like, if you want to go to Mars, like you're going to have to check off a lot of boxes and be very emotionally stable.
I think you pretty much, I know they'll try to get people back, but I think you're pretty much committed to a one-way trip.
Right. But
even
if you had the option of coming back, I'm just saying, like, it's not glamorous. It's got to be absolutely terrifying and very ungrounding. And you're like so disconnected and isolated. And that's like really hard. How do you manage those emotions,
Right. And the physical aspects. When I say one-way trip, I'm like, I don't know that they'll ever be able to go back to Earth. Think about spending 2 years either completely weightless or in 1/3 gravity. Coming back to Earth would be just crushing.
Yeah.
That would.
Yes.
So speaking of rock climbing, you'd never rock climb again. You'd just be like,
no.
You're poor. But on Mars, think about being able to rock climb on the massif of like the Olympus Mons or something.
Yes.
Like True. 1,000 meters of climbing up in 1/3 G would be pretty cool.
True, but I still have a lot of climbs that I need to hit here before I consider my Mars crags, the crags on Mars.
There you go.
Derpy Gamer 13, thank you for hitting us with the comments. He says, John, what made you start your YouTube channel? It's probably already been asked, but I'd like to know. And where do you think you'll go in the future of your show?
All right, cool. So I think we covered this way back at the beginning of this talk, but I started it off. My original, if you go way back to like the first few episodes, I would get a piece of paper that had a question on it. I'd open it up and I'd have to answer it in real time. So it was really literally anything. It could be about Greek mythology. It could be about whatever. So anyway, that evolved fairly quickly into more technical topics and then into Tesla. Where it is going to go in the future, I'm really passionate about AI and where all of that technology is going. So I think that's likely where it's headed. I mean, obviously, just to be realistic and honest about this, if you put Tesla in the title, like twice as many people watch it. So, and I have no problem with that because I have the Tesla Model Y. For people who were not here earlier, I have the full self-driving beta. So it's a really amazing real world case, but there's so much more to the world of AI. There's tons of stuff going on and I find it fascinating. So software, hardware, specifically artificial intelligence, machine learning, that kind of stuff is what really floats my boat. So,
are you a big fan of Lex Fridman?
Yes, love him. By the by, and this is a super sad story. I have my old original Twitter account that I've had since 2009. That's just my own personal one, but I have a Dr. Know-It-All one. And about 6 months ago, he blocked it. And I've always thought like, boy, I'd love to do an interview, talk to Lex Fridman. No. He's the coolest person on earth. And I'm like, how did I get blocked by him? So my other account, I can see what he tweets, but on my main Dr. Know-It-All account, I can't. So if anybody knows Lex, go like, dude, why did you block this guy?
Maybe it was like an automated.
That's what I'm guessing, because I'd never said anything bad about it. I've always been like really. Yeah, it was just weird because one day I was like, geez, I don't see any tweets from him anymore. And I went and looked for him and it was like, you're blocked by this person. I was like, what? So,
that doesn't make
anyway,
any sense.
So totally love Lex Fridman. I actually just watched his
Mark
for
Zuckerberg.
Those who are interested, pardon me?
Is it the Mark Zuckerberg?
No. I haven't seen that one yet. I watched his MIT course from 2017 on full self-driving. It is killer. It's so good. Really? And it's like, yeah, it's I think it's on MIT's website, not his, or maybe it's on his. But anyway, if you're interested, I honestly just hit me up on Twitter and I'll send you the link. But anyway, it's it's just a fascinating. Is that the oh somebody just sent me something about the Mars thing about being gone for a year. So there you go. But anyway, it's an amazing thing. He's a really good teacher. I think he's a fantastic interviewer. He takes the opposite style of both of us, I think, because he's just willing to be quiet for really long times.
Right.
We're both more enthusiastic.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's crazy. Where was this comment? Wes, how long have you two been climbing? I've been climbing probably late 2017 or 2018. And then I took kind of like a break because I didn't have a gym for 3 years. And then I've been climbing consistently here for like 7 months.
cool.
So
Mostly outdoors or indoors?
mostly indoors,
Yeah.
because of the
Pretty cold
weather,
there, isn't it?
but
Yeah.
I lead like 3 to 4 times a week. And if you guys know what leading is, it's a little scary. No, it's really fun.
It's a lot scary.
It's very fun. I feel like people don't, it's hard to explain to people that aren't familiar. It's like leading the route. So it's when, you start with you and the rope on the ground, and then you make a couple moves and you clip into a draw, and then you make a couple other moves and you clip again. And so
there's a psychological fear of being above your protection. It's like,
yes,
when you look down and you see the bolt down there and you're like, oh no.
yes. And then if you're struggling, I mean, because you got to go one-handed to make that clip. So there's,
right. Yeah, it's a thing.
oh, I love it. I'm so obsessed.
I started way back, like when I lived in Southern California. I climbed at Stony Point for a long time, but then I took like a really long time off when I had kids. So I started back in, I think about 2015 or so, something like that. So, yeah.
I'm reading more questions about this idea of going to Mars. So Dusty says longest NASA Mars analog to date was 1 year long. And then Ray says, I thought they could build a rotating station above Mars, simulating one Earth gravity with occupants going down to the surface for short periods. What do you think, Dr. Kia?
Sure. I mean, eventually, but like, look at what we got to the moon in the 1960s. It was like a teeny little tin can that was like the size of a Volkswagen Bug. The first time we go to Mars, we're not going to be riding in style and have anything as cool as like a space station it would be great. But I think we're looking at 2001: A Space Odyssey is the lovely idea of having that like rotating thing. Super cool. And I think it's going to be totally necessary before we can go and do it a lot. But I think the first people who go are just going to be floating. It's just too much mass.
Quinton says, John, do you think FSD will be better than a human by end of year?
Yes.
Easy.
That was a fast answer.
That was easy. No hesitation.
I'm waiting for because I've been watching the progress. I'm waiting for version 11 of the software. That's like the really version 10.10.2 right now. And who knows how many 10.10s are going to be, but version 11 is a complete overhaul. And if it's as good as what it seems like, and Elon Musk has been touting how good it is, I think we're going to be talking, under most circumstances, it'll be better than a human being by the end of the year. So, yeah.
Shelburne James says AI will definitely kill human.
I think that's full self-driving, or maybe it means the AI overlords.
Yeah, maybe he means the Tesla bots. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I don't know if anybody watched the AI day, but when Elon Musk introduced the Tesla bot, he's like, look, it's like 5'8", weighs like 120 pounds, can only lift up 45 pounds. You can knock it over. It can only like walk at like 3 miles an hour. So you can like walk away from it. He was like trying really hard to be like, not the Terminator. Right?
Yeah.
It's like the anti-Terminator. So, and I think that's justifiable, right? I think the more scary thing is all the cars. So like someday the AGI wakes up and it just turns all the cars into like flying machines of death. So
right.
There you go. There's a dystopic future right there.
TSM Space says, besides driving, do you think AI will take over tasks such as excavators, etc.?
Oh. Yeah. Like, why not? Certainly, I think anything boring or dangerous would be the first two things that would go to robots. And driving is really boring and really dangerous. So
I'm laughing. Pete 2.0 says, does AI know when SLS will launch?
I'm not even sure God knows when SLS is going to launch. God's probably looking down from the heavens going like, hey, Boeing, yo.
Oh my God. I'm laughing. You guys are funny. I like the funny. Steve Schritz says, I'm impressed watching the FSD. It uses the same thought processes and visual cues we do when driving safely.
Right. It's really, have you had a chance, like, Ellie, to drive in like one?
So my ex has a Model 3 and he had the it wasn't quite FSD beta. It was like the
autopilot
navigation autopilot thing.
Right.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's the non-beta version. Yes. And that one's cool and everything, but well, certainly you'll probably see Tim Dodden live before you see me, but he's got the beta. So make him drive you in the car and show you like this. It looks like a video game. It's so freaking cool.
I mean, I was impressed with what I experienced in the other version. You know, I mean, they had like the smart summon. That was really cool to like have your car freaking drive to you across the parking lot. Like that was just wild. But also like, even as he was using it, you know, on the highway and stuff, he said that it did a great job. So.
Right. Yeah, it does so well on the highway that I don't generally even, it's actually gotten to the point where I'm not as attentive as I probably should be, because I completely trust it on the highway. And on most roads, I trust it. Like if it's just driving, the turns are where it can get a little funky. That's generally the places where it can be, but it's amazing. And it really, really reduces stress. Like when you're driving and you have to, like when I drive our other car, which is just a regular gas car, I get where I'm going. I'm like, my gosh, that was really hard work. Like it's so easy when I don't really have to drive the car.
Well, that's how I feel about like using cruise control. I mean, you know, like cruise control is amazing, you know, if you're on the highway, and like without it, it's just so much more attention. But, you know, like driving around lately, seeing pretty much everyone on their phone, like not even while they're at a stoplight, like straight up just you know, it's like, I wish everyone could afford a Tesla and we're able to drive a Tesla.
Or the Tesla will very quickly license their technology so everybody else can have it too.
Well, aren't they working on making like a $25,000 Tesla?
Right.
For me,
I just did a video on that today.
Because I saw that headline.
Yeah, it was about whether Shanghai, they're opening or starting construction on a new factory in Shanghai. And I was sort of speculating on whether they were going to work on the Model 2 or $25,000 car there. So
heck yeah, I hope so.
I personally don't think so, but I also could see a very good reason to do it. The reason why I don't think so is because their demand is so high still that I don't know until they can catch up with what they're doing right now. Like but at the same time, the argument for it is, especially in the Chinese market, they could lose market share because there's a lot of EVs that are coming out in China right now. So anyway, I hedged my bets.
Bill Grice says FSD is better than some humans now. The improvement in my Model 3 over the past 3 years is amazing. It saved my butt several times. Yes, I had to correct in some cases.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. At this point, I call it hybrid driving. So in a weird way, I think of myself as like a foreman. So it's like you've got this worker that's working and you're kind of like looking over its shoulder. And then once in a while, you're like, no, you're doing it wrong. I'm here. This is how you do it. So, so you're like, you've turned into, instead of being the person who's driving, you're like the manager of the person who's driving. And sometimes you have to intervene and go like, this is how you're supposed to do it. But most of the time, like I said, most of the time when I disengage, it's just because I'm impatient.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I want to get in this lane because it's going to be faster because there's like fewer cars, and that's just me being impatient.
Let's see.
I actually have one of my I feel really bad for this. One of my actually it was Mars Embassy. His car, he got into an accident with his car, and he said he wasn't using full self-driving for once in his car, and then he got in an accident. And he was like, if my full self-driving had been active, it would have avoided the accident. So
No way.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the statistics, and even anecdotally, just me driving, I'm like, the car is really safe. And a
Wow.
lot of times it will detect things like faster than I do. Like just about the time I realize that I need to make a correction, it's already making that correction.
Right, right.
So
Let's see.
ooh,
Michael Maxey, should Tesla bots be among the first cargo sent to Mars? I think we both agree. Yes,
absolutely.
should
Yeah.
be. They should be the ones setting the thing up.
Yeah, in fact, actually, in some ways, I don't know that NASA, if we can get the Tesla bot built and it can be radiation hardened, I don't really see the point of sending like the wheeled rovers anymore, because a bipedal robot that can actually step over things would make more sense.
Right.
Or I guess you could ride it like a chariot.
Oh
It could like drive, it could drive, speaking of that, it could drive the rover around and then get off and walk around and do stuff. So
my gosh. That is quite the illustration.
right.
Let's see. John says, I'm in Minnesota. FSD, avoid me from hitting a deer.
Good. That's I have so many deer that live where I like around my house, and I have been really fortunate, but I've seen like it visualizes them at the edge of the road when they get there. And there's somebody posted this on Twitter, and the video quality was really bad, but he was driving down the road and there was a bicyclist coming.
I saw that.
Did you see that? The video
Yes.
quality is bad, but you could see the car just go like vroom, vroom, like that, and just like
Yeah.
get over, and it was like
He
wow.
has a 4K version of it on his YouTube. I think you saw it maybe on Twitter.
Yeah, I did, and it was just so trashy. It was like really hard to see, but yeah.
But yeah, he was like, this shouldn't be happening. And before I could even like register it, my car just moved around the guy who was going the wrong
way down the road on a bike at night with no lights on. I'm like, dude,
like wearing dark clothing. Hello.
That's one of those like take your breath away moments.
Yeah. How many launch will sus do until humans go in? What did they mean? Starship?
Oh, maybe the idea is how many of the Tesla bot launches are there going to have to be?
We don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a feeling. I have a feeling just because of human beings that we'll probably want to like go ourselves. So we, there may be a few people who go and just go, we made it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Chinese, right? They're just like, yes, we made it, plant the flag. But I think in order to actually build anything where we could stay permanently, it's going to require a lot of launches with these AI robots. Yeah.
How's your battery doing?
It's like it's just about to die.
Okay. So
that's a good reason to wrap it up. We've almost been talking for 2 hours. So there you go.
I was gonna say, you use like a camera, or because I'm just on like a
I'm using a webcam, but I've got sorry, I can't quite reach it to where the camera views. Just a lav. It's a lav mic.
Wait, hold on. Let me see it. Oh, so your mic's about to die.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My mic's the camera's fine. It's just plugged in. Yeah. Sorry, that didn't. Yeah.
See, you use like I just have like this.
Right. Oh, I have that too. So, I just like to move around. I like to move around a lot when I talk in these interviews.
Yeah.
And so I like it's just easier. So plus the shirt's black, so like you can't see because it's like plugged like right there. But anyway,
I really like that shirt. Now, is that like a shirt you made?
Yeah, it's on the merch store.
Cool.
So if anybody didn't see it yet, so Dan is like he's the guy that like does the designs, and he did the cool half shadowed Elon Musk. And this, of course, is from actually the SpaceX presentation.
Wow.
Says success is one of the possible outcomes. So we thought that was pretty cool, which is why I figured I had to wear it tonight, because I was like, oh yeah, that makes good sense.
No, I love that. Okay, well, if your stuff's about to die and
it's gonna go the way.
I'm sure
plus it's actually 10 o'clock at night here. I'm like, woo.
Oh wow, it's only 8 here. See, I'm like, oh, I still have time to go on a walk. It's really nice. I went on a hike last night, and it's like finally good weather to do that stuff. I'm actually going climbing outdoors tomorrow, so I'll have to let you know how it goes.
Actually, I'm gonna have to come visit there because I've never climbed in the Salt Lake City area, but I hear it's really good.
Yes, the climbing, and then also just like the hiking. I mean, we're not that
Right,
far
right,
from some of the best national parks in the
right.
country. So there's a lot to see here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
That was one of the main discoveries. Like it was just a couple of years ago before I went to like Moab and Zion and Bryce Canyon and Arches and like there's like I was like, how many national parks are like right in this little like area? It's incredible.
Oh, so you did go to Zion. Did you go to
Oh, yeah.
Angel's Landing?
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
was closed and I went up anyway. Well,
No.
it was open up till the saddle, but because of COVID, they all the part with the chains. So they closed the part with the chains, and I was looking around. I was like, nobody's here to like stop me. So I just went boom, 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 and just like climbed up really. So everybody talks about like it takes like an hour to get up the chain part. There was nobody on it. So I just like ran up to the top and looked around. I was like, cool. And then I felt like I saw somebody like far away and I like got scared and I ran back down again. So anyway.
Oh my God. What time of day did you have to go through the chains? Is light?
Oh yeah. It
Okay.
was middle of the day. So
You were trying to do that in the dark.
No. That like I got up to the saddle and I kind of looked over the edge, right? And I was like, ooh, wow, there's a pretty good drop off here.
If any of you guys are curious what the heck we're talking about, Angel's Landing is a hike in southern Utah. I made a vlog about it, actually going across it. It was kind of amazing, but also probably really scary if you're afraid of heights, which
Right.
I am not. So
I'm definitely afraid of heights, which is why I climb actually.
Really?
So yeah.
Okay.
That's why I said when you asked me about being a chicken about leading, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a huge chicken about leading. But
interesting. So you're just like doing that fear exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's better. So anyway,
John,
but it's also absolutely beautiful.
John Check, not you, John, a different
No.
John. He says, Ellie, has anybody ever said you look like a young Barbara Eaton? Yes.
Really? That's cool. And you do actually.
Is that, that's like Jeannie, right?
Jeannie. Yeah.
I'll take it. That is actually not the first time, but I mean, shoot, I'll take it. And Barbara Eden it is. Yes. Anton's World of Videos corrects Barbara Eden. Cool.
There you go.
I'll be the 2022 version.
Hey, speaking of historical space stuff, because remember, like the plot of I Dream of Jeannie was he like crash landed in his Gemini capsule and like met the genie on some desert island in the middle of nowhere. So it actually ties into all the space stuff.
It does. It does. I love it.
It all ties up in a bow.
It's all connected. You know, the world is really small.
Right.
Like I realize that more and more, like how small it is. It's almost like spooky.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, okay. One last question, because Daniel's written this question like 3 times in a row.
Okay.
Daniel, how many launches will SLS have until humans go in?
I think there's only one. I think the second one is human rated.
Okay.
So my understanding is there's one launch to test it all out. And the second launch, I think at this point is like supposed to be humans to the moon, not to land, but to actually go around the moon. So that's a pretty ambitious schedule. But then again, what is the launch? It's like $4.5 billion per launch. So you really don't want to waste the launches. Yeah, right.
That is crazy.
It's absolutely nuts when you think about the amount of money. But
like,
yeah,
what's the point? Just leave
it
to SpaceX.
There's nobody else that can do it. SpaceX can't do it right now.
Yeah.
Even the Starship won't be able to do it. It'll have to be refueled in low Earth orbit to get like up to the moon. So yeah, it's kind of it's a really, really weird thing, but it takes almost as much delta. In fact, I think it might take more delta V to get to the moon than to get to Mars, because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. So you have to slow down when you get there, and that takes a huge amount of propellant. So in Mars, you can cheat because you just like slam into the atmosphere and you can slow yourself down. So hopefully gently slam yourself into the atmosphere.
Yes. Yes.
So
wow, that's crazy though.
I know, it's a pretty nutty thing.
Well, I think
that's a good question.
I know it is a good question. I'm glad we're sorry, Daniel, that it took a little bit there. We get off track here in these live streams.
It's been a fun chat. That actually makes it way more fun.
No, it has. It has. Someone said they enjoyed seeing the kitties. So
Right.
Kitties are sleeping, and
my dog just showed back up again.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Pete 2.0, thank you for the super chat. He says, I need more of this. Thanks to Ellie and John.
Oh, cool.
So,
all right.
Yeah, we should do more collabs. You know, it was really fun when I went to Starbase with Warren last year. So we're going to have to think of somewhere we can meet up and
if
take on
we
the
can
town.
Manage to finagle tickets to Giga Austin, we
oh my God. Yeah.
Then we'll definitely have like a thing.
Would you go?
Oh, absolutely.
Duh.
Like you said, drop everything and go.
I was going to say, I guess the question is, could you go?
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat. I'm like, I would make it happen, question mark.
Right, I know. I'm sort of like, is anybody watching from work? If so, then obviously I wouldn't go, but otherwise, yes, I'll definitely go. So it depends on who the audience is.
Yes. Well, and the other thing too is like, I'm pretty sure the last one, like they got invites very last minute.
Right.
So
yeah, I know like Warren got invited to the plaid thing, but it was like the day before. Yeah, I think it was 24 hours ahead of time. So
like what?
I know. Well, you know, when you're a billionaire and you have a private jet, 24 hours is plenty of notice.
Yeah.
Anyway. But we'll make it happen. We'll definitely be there. I'm still debating about going even if I don't get in, because there's going to be so much stuff around it that
I know. I'm in the same boat.
Right.
I'm in the same boat. Maybe we should go.
Yeah. Just go ahead and get tickets for like the Wednesday before and see what happens.
I think we should do it. What do you guys think? Should we go to
Austin? There we go. We need to do a Twitter poll.
Yeah. Should we show up to Austin? I saw some people earlier in the chat. They're like, just crash the party. Well, I don't know if that works so well.
I think that's an appropriate term for a car. Crash the party, right? So
crash the party. Yes, people have enjoyed the interview. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for appreciating it. It was fun. It was a good chat. Absolutely. I'm sure we'll have many more. So either I'll see you in Austin or we'll just chat again soon. If you guys would like to join us, we'll do it again.
Sounds good. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your night. Thanks everyone for watching. Let's see if I can. All right.
Good luck turning it off. Right.